we are now seeing an unprecedented $1.6 trillion of national debt for auto loans within the United States. Honestly, that's what drove me nuts. Seeing so many greedy dealers deploy those tactics and go unpunished. Go unpunished by the vehicle manufacturer. They just let it happen. Quality's going down and the price tags are going up. Easily, a lot of manufacturers have priced out their target demographics. They're out of touch with reality. Let's just call it how it is, right? And this Expedition, prime example. We got a May feature. Do it, May. Yeah, baby. I tried to go get a Bronco, a brand new Bronco Badlands Sasquatch package. They wanted $10,000 over sticker and they would not budge. In fact, they were bragging about how that was the cheapest, most affordable option within a 500-mile radius. Pretty pathetic, huh? So we have a Nissan Z here, but I didn't even realize that these MSRPs have gotten so high on them. Check it out. 2024 Nissan Z, and this is going to be a common sight throughout the rest of 2025 here. A lot of carryover units from 24, I think, are going to teeter it toward the end of 2025. But the best type of vehicle is a paid off vehicle. I truly mean that. So if you are in a position to try to buy one, go buy a used vehicle that is within your budget. It's hard to justify price tags like that for a secondary or even a third vehicle within a household, a fun weekend car. People are just holding on to their money, and I think rightfully so. With the cost of everything going up so much throughout the last few years, the cost of rent, cost of mortgage, cost of groceries, insurance, you name it, vehicle loans are often the first thing people default on. Between the reckless buying practices of us, the consumer, throughout the last few years, combined with the irresponsible lending practices of so many banking institutions, like I said, going up to 150% loan to value for the loans, we now find ourselves in a sticky position. To add insult to injury, we are currently witnessing a 5 to 7 month wait for a lot of repo men or tow truck companies right now throughout the US, especially in major cities, a 5 to 7 month wait. These right here are not selling new, let alone a used example with 53,000 miles, still asking 60 grand for it. That's a hard pass for me. At the end of 2022, the average new vehicle interest rate was 3.8% on a new vehicle purchase. That's the average. Sometimes much less, sometimes a little bit more, but 3.8. The end of 2023, we saw an average of 7.7 being the interest rate average for across the country. Right now, we're about the same. Hey YouTube, Untamed here. The pandemic brought forth supply constraints that ultimately led to dealerships deploying greedy tactics. A lot of times that looked like a markup of some sort, whether it's 5,000, 10,000, or sometimes even more than that over the MSRP of a vehicle. They were lining their pockets left and right at your expense. Everybody was struggling, but well, dealerships still took it upon themselves to take advantage of you, the consumer. In today's video, I'm going to highlight the reasons why we are now witnessing the ripple effects of such decisions. People overpaid for their vehicles throughout the last few years, and well, now we're feeling the pain of it. So I'll walk through the details in today's video, peel back the layers of the onion, and really highlight why this is going to be a huge issue as we teeter deeper into 2025. So stick with me. Now, every single dealership lot that you go to is just packed with inventory. Inventory levels are through the roof. We've seen a 120% growth rate over the last 2.5 years, and now it's very, very common to go in, get several $1,000s off of MSRP, and get an incentivized interest rate. This is very common now. So the people that did overpay and paid a markup just a few years ago, well, they're extremely upside down on that loan. It appears a lot of dealerships are just holding out. They're holding out for either a government bailout or something, some giant shift in the market to where they can actually move metal again. The inventory levels have gotten to the point where many of them are turning away their deliveries. They're turning away their allocations. They just no longer have the space for them. Their overflow lots are overflowing. And people are fed up. They're fed up with prices of new trucks especially. Since when do you have to go out and spend over $90,000 for a Chevy Silverado 3500 High Country? That is absolutely insane. If you were to finance that, fold them out over 60 months or 72 months, you're easily looking at monthly payments between $1,600 and $1,800 per month. Kind of wild. Quick, somebody call the whoop-de-doo hotline and tell them to stop the press. We got $1,000 off this Honda HR-V Ermergerd. And well, just when you thought the deals couldn't get better at this Honda dealership, look what we have here. $1,500 off this Honda Pilot. Wow. So during the pandemic, inventory or supply was low and money was cheap, meaning it was very easy to get an automobile loan at a very low interest rate. And because of that, banks were handing out loans like candy. They were handing out loans at 135 to 150% LTV or loan to value, meaning if you were going to buy a vehicle for $100,000, they would issue a loan up to $150,000 for that vehicle. So although a very extreme example, pretend I owed $65,000 on a vehicle that was currently worth 15 grand. I traded that vehicle in for that $100,000 vehicle purchase when we just talked about. I would then roll my $50,000 of negative equity into that purchase, and a bank would still, at the time during the pandemic, issue that $150,000 automobile loan for the $100,000 vehicle purchase, which is absolutely absurd. But things like that were happening. Obviously, that's an extreme example, but they were happening. And that's why we find people in a very sticky situation right now. They owe a tremendous amount on their current vehicles that they likely took a 5 or a 6 year loan out for. They owe a ton on it still. And that negative equity is even larger right now. The national average negative equity is $7,200. There is a huge amount of Americans that owe more than $10,000 on their current loan. And the pathetic part is it was even vehicles like this Honda Accord that were coming with a markup on it during the pandemic, right? Throughout the last few years, even regular vehicles like the Toyota Camry, Toyota Prius, Honda Civic, Honda Accord here, they were coming with a $1,000 to $5,000 over sticker upcharge for them, and people were paying it because they felt like they had no choice. An alarming bit is repossession rates have skyrocketed last year. I beat that up to death on my channel here, but it's an important fact to consider when we talk through this here. Oftentimes it was on vehicles like this. We have a Nissan Z here, but I didn't even realize that these MSRPs have gotten so high on them. Check it out. 2024 Nissan Z, and this is going to be a common sight throughout the rest of 2025 here. A lot of carryover units from 24 I think are going to teeter it toward the end of 2025. So we'll see what happens there, but I'm pretty confident in it. But 61 grand for this one. This one over here is a little bit of a lesser trim. It is a manual transmission. It is advertised with $4,500 off. But even still, this one, over $55,000 for it. Again, a 2024. With the cost of everything going up so much throughout the last few years, the cost of rent, cost of mortgage, cost of groceries, insurance, you name it, vehicle loans are often the first thing people default on. We talked about it plenty, but it truly is alarming to know that the number of auto loan delinquencies we have with the 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day delinquency is the highest that we have seen since the 08-09 recession. Kind of wild. We did see an unprecedented growth rate of the number of repossessions that have taken place within the United States throughout 2024 compared to 2023. We saw a 23% uptick in the number of repossessions. That is alarming and quite unprecedented. And I talk about it plenty, but I do firmly believe that the Nissan Frontier truly is among the last reliable mid-sized pickup trucks that you can buy right now. This still does come with that naturally aspirated V6. This does offer a level of peace of mind. And that price tag, although still high, you can easily negotiate that into the high 30s. The shameful bit for me is it appears that a lot of dealerships put revenue over reputation. They were quick to flick away their loyal customers who had been returning to the dealership for years, sometimes even decades within their families. They flicked them away for the sake of lining their pocketbooks with a $5,000 or a $10,000 addendum or markup. It's pretty pitiful. Subaru, out of all the dealerships here in my hometown and all dealerships that I often visit, they generally have the lowest amount of inventory, at least in my experience. That is generally because their MSRPs saw the lowest price hike since 2019. Since the beginning of the pandemic, they've only seen a 28% increase in their MSRPs, whereas the national average is 42% across all vehicle manufacturers. Jeep saw the highest with a 54% uptick since 2019. With the national average new vehicle purchase price being $48,405, it does begin to make more sense that Subaru is actually selling. Subaru is actually doing a little bit better than Toyota now across the auction line and wholesale. It's vehicles like this Toyota Crosstrek, that Forester over there, and Outbacks. Many of these are priced between 30 and the low 40s. So they're bearable for a lot of Americans anyway. I mean, really just throughout the last few years, trying to find a lightly used Cadillac Escalade for under MSRP was pretty difficult to do, which is pretty shameful to say out loud. This one here is now priced at $59,000. The original MSRP on this particular one was high 90s, maybe even low 100s. To be fair, this one has been driven quite a bit. And while the GMC Yukon XL Denali right next to it, well, it shares a very similar mileage amount and a very similar price tag. Kind of a cool color though. And this site right here was completely unheard of throughout the last few years. You guys know I am a Toyota enthusiast and I often follow the Toyota market, especially TRD Pros like this Tundra here. This one here was plagued by the faulty main crankshaft bearing, the large safety recall. So these right here are not selling new, let alone a used example with 53,000 miles. still asking 60 grand for it. That's a hard pass for me. Interest rates are a big piece of the equation here. For context, at the end of 2022, the average new vehicle interest rate was 3.8% on a new vehicle purchase. That's the average. Sometimes much less, sometimes a little bit more, but 3.8. The end of 2023, we saw an average of 7.7 being the interest rate average for across the country. Right now, we're about the same. So end of 2022 was really kind of the end of dealerships really being able to take advantage fully, right? Obviously, we still have some greedy dealerships still to this day trying to charge markups because they refuse to let go of the past. They refuse to let go of the pandemic pricing time, and man, they wish they could hold on to it longer. The used market is struggling even worse. Throughout the last 9 months, we've seen an 18 to 20% drop in used values across the board on average throughout the wholesale market. Generally speaking, it takes about a quarter or two for it to actually affect us, the retail market, the consumer. And I would argue, based on the prices I'm seeing, we're starting to witness it now. Inventory levels are through the roof. We have over 2.3 million used vehicles available within the US right now. Over 3.1 million new vehicles available within the US. That growth rate, over 120% growth in the last 2.5 years. That's unprecedented. And I hate to say it, but Cadillac dealerships were among the worst offenders. I would say Toyota was a little bit worse when it comes to marking up TRD Pro, 4Runners, Sequoias, Tacomas, Tundras, you name it. But Cadillac in particular was quick to throw a $10,000 or more markup over MSRP on their Escalades here. This one now, well, just a few years later, is $70,000. The MSRP on this ESV was right around 100 grand back in 2021, and I guarantee it, the person who bought it back then, they paid a $10,000 markup for it. And to be honest, I can't imagine how difficult it would be to sell a used Chevy Silverado or GMC Sierra right now. This one here, priced at $52,000 with 10,000 miles on it, is dang near what you'd be paying or expect to pay on a brand new example. A 2025 with rebates and all the discounts included, you're probably on par with that. So why would you spend that much more or that much for a used example and get hit with 11% interest rate on it? That is the national average. No thanks. And honestly, here's proof in the pudding. This is a brand new 2024, still a carryover unit, but a brand new GMC Sierra 1500 here with the 5.3 liter V8. MSRP is right at $65,000. You can't see it there, but look, they're advertising it with a over $7,700 discount and a 4.9% interest rate over 84 months. That's kind of crazy. I would easily argue that you can walk in there and negotiate a deal for $12,000 off if it meant making a deal happen today. So why in the world would you get that used one over there? And well, you can see a theme across all of these trucks here. Now, believe it or not, there's actually people out there right now who have a 17 to 25% interest rate on their auto loan. Can you imagine paying credit card interest rates on a vehicle purchase? That becomes suffocating extremely fast, and well, it is no surprise that those people are quick to just get rid of that vehicle, stop making payments, and let the repo man come get it. To add insult to injury, we are currently witnessing a 5 to 7 month wait for a lot of repo men or tow truck companies right now throughout the US, especially in major cities, a 5 to 7 month wait. So if a bank is aiming to repossess a vehicle that you defaulted on, you stop paying for, well, you might just get 5 to 7 months of being able to drive it before the repo man actually gets time to come get it. I'm not encouraging you to do that, let me be clear, but that's our reality right now. It's just an idea of how many people truly are just giving up on their auto loans. Although I personally would never buy a South Korean vehicle, in my personal opinion, I think they're all garbage. They have come a long way. They've come a very long way. Remember the Honda Santa Fe? It never looked anywhere near this good. And on the inside, well, it actually feels pretty premium. I've driven one before. They feel nice. But again, I just wouldn't roll the dice on it, especially given the fact that their price tags are just amounting every single year. And in fact, Hyundai and Kia, both out of South Korea, they're projecting the largest MSRP hikes next year. Now, honestly, I used to be a firm believer of you get what you pay for, but not anymore. Nowadays, you need to do a ton of research, a ton of homework to really look into where that vehicle is being produced at, what goes into it, what kind of research and development really went into that vehicle, and what ultimately led to that price tag. If you can believe it, this brand new Hyundai Sonata shares the same exact price tag of what I just paid for my used 12-year-old Lexus GX460 here. I paid $30,500 for it, and well, that Sonata, brand new, 0 miles on it, is just slightly more than that. Which one would you buy? 12-year-old Lexus, proven reliability, or roll the dice here on the Hyundai? And honestly, a part of the rub for me is so many non-luxury brands like Ford, Chevy, Jeep are really deploying luxury segment price tags on a lot of their SUVs. We see it here even with the Ford Expedition. This one here has a stealth package being advertised with $10,000 off. Ask yourself, why do they need to do that? It's largely because of this hugely inflated price tag. $86,000. Absolutely absurd. I remember when you could easily go buy one of these between 50 and 60 grand all day long. Quality's going down and the price tags are going up. Easily, a lot of manufacturers have priced out their target demographics. They're out of touch with reality. Let's just call it how it is, right? And this here, this Expedition, prime example. A lot of people who can afford a $100,000 Jeep Grand Wagoneer, they're probably the type of people who want to go out and get something with that logo on it. They want to go spend BMW money on a BMW. They want to spend Mercedes-Benz money on a Mercedes-Benz, not a Jeep. One thing I touched on briefly in a recent video was lot rot. Although a lot of people throw those terms around loosely and they kind of toss them around in conversations, it is something you truly need to be on the lookout for, especially now more than ever. A lot of dealerships have had the same inventory for several months, sometimes even over a year. You need to be aware, whether you're buying brand new or used, check into that vehicle, look underneath it, do a full inspection of it, take it to your mechanic if that gives you better peace of mind, and just buy with confidence. Know that that vehicle hasn't been sitting there. Know that it has been driven a little bit, at least give you some better peace of mind. Now this one here, as I look at it too, it appears to have a different shade to that front bumper, kind of a lighter shade up here compared to the hood. To be fair, they are different materials, likely a plastic composite up front for the bumper and a metal for the hood there. But just stuff like that. Be on the lookout for it, because this could have been an fender bender. And man, whenever a dealership got in an allocation on a Raptor, whether it's a Bronco Raptor or the F-150 Raptor like you see in front of me here, they were quick to be licking their chops because they knew that they could easily stiff you with a $10,000 or more market adjustment, right? That markup over MSRP. And people, well, they were tricked into paying it left and right. And because of that, it really just inflated the market for the Raptors in particular, even the Bronco Raptor. But if you've been following the Bronco Raptor at all, you know that they are now being discounted anywhere from $22,000 to $29,000 off of MSRP, bringing them down to the low $70,000 range because their MSRPs are teetering right around that high $90,000, $100,000 price point. So imagine if you did spend $10,000 over sticker on a Bronco Raptor, imagine how upside down you are right now. Kind of sad, huh? And for whatever it's worth, the F-150 Raptor here is now seeing a $4,000 to $7,000 off discount across the board. You can easily find that type of discount on one of them, to include the 37 performance package. $7 grand off, you can get, I'm confident in saying. Because unfortunately, I do feel like dealerships are still able to deploy greedy tactics on vehicles like that, because it's a very exciting vehicle. When you go look at it at a dealership lot, they take advantage of your excitement if they're a shady dealer. You know, my dealership here, they have a great GM. Kevin Harris is his name. I actually did a sit-down interview with him, kind of talked through markups, had a very difficult discussion, a difficult interview, more so for him than me, but he was an awesome guy, and I really appreciate him doing that. And you'd be very hard-pressed throughout the last few years to just walk on a dealership and stumble upon not one, but two lightly used F-150 Raptors sitting for sale. They were just a very hot commodity, and man, dealers really knew that, and they took advantage of that. One question that I get asked all the time is, what will that car market crash actually look like here in 25? It's going to go as low as 10 to 15% below invoice. That's going to be the pricing on new vehicles. Anything below that, well, that dealership is going to be put in a really tight spot to where they have to go belly up. They're going to have to turn over the inventory to the manufacturer. They're not going to be able to sell it for much less than that while still staying afloat, unfortunately. And honestly, it wasn't all that long ago that Jeep Wranglers had a tremendous resale value. The Jeep Wrangler, Jeep Gladiator, great resale values. But now, well, that's gone by the wayside. And that's largely thanks to the huge 54% price hike that we did find with Jeeps across the board. The Wrangler fell victim to that too. So they got that huge price hike, and while the quality, it certainly isn't there, right? But it's a shame because it really is an American icon. But that's where we're at. Dealers cannot sell these brand new. So I do feel bad for dealerships trying to sell used examples. It'll be sitting for a while. Similar to what I just showed you with the Nissan Zs over there, these Ford Mustangs, at least desirable trims like the 5.0 here, the GT350, GT350Rs, were coming with pretty substantial markups on them. That is when, quote unquote, money was cheap and you can get financed at a 2.5% loan and 135 to 150% loan to value loan issuance. But now, well, these are just sitting on dealership lots. Similar to a EV, Vehicles like this Ford Mustang, this one here is a GT Coupe Premium with a price tag just over 53 grand. It's hard to justify price tags like that for a secondary or even a third vehicle within a household, a fun weekend car. People are just holding on to their money, and I think rightfully so. 48 consecutive years being America's best-selling pickup truck. And well, if you go to any Ford dealership, that does not appear to be the case. You just have rows upon rows of unsold F-150s of various trims, even desirable trims, just sitting collecting dust. As I looked at all of these F-150s here, this truly is right around that medium price tag, just under $63,000. This one is an XLT F-150, again, a carryover unit from 2024. I'd expect that many of these are going to be here come May, June, July timeframe. So I mean it when I say it that the best type of vehicle is a paid-off vehicle. I truly mean that. So if you are in a position to try to buy one, go buy a used vehicle that is within your budget. Have that peace of mind knowing that you're not shoveling out a ton of money every month. Not to mention, now that insurance premiums have over doubled in the last 2.5 years, why subject yourself to that? Still remember when I was stationed out in Maryland, I tried to go get a Bronco, a brand new Bronco Badlands Sasquatch package. They wanted $10,000 over a sticker and they would not budge. In fact, they were bragging about how that was the cheapest, most affordable option within a 500-mile radius. Pretty pathetic, huh? The people right now, they feel stuck. They're wildly upside down on their current loans that they paid too much for throughout the last few years. And at this point, they're probably halfway through their payments, likely because a lot of them went through a 5 or a 6 year loan term. They're about halfway through it, and they're realizing, holy cow, I owe a lot more on my vehicle than what it's actually worth right now. What do I do? They can't just go into a dealership with that huge amount of negative equity expecting to just roll it into their next loan. Like I mentioned, banks are clamping down, and I've talked about it plenty, I know, but I'll beat the drum here. 1 out of 5 auto loans that were applied for throughout the last 2 quarters were denied. Kind of crazy. So when you combine it all together, the supply has far exceeded demand. People are losing interest. Quality is going down substantially. Remember when this new Tundra came out, Toyota dealerships were quick to slap them with markups, various trims, especially the TRD Pro, as you'd imagine. The TRD Pro came at a price point right around $71,000, $72,000. Nowadays, just a few years later, they've hiked up to $77,000. And well, when I was buying mine back in 2023, I was met with a ton of dealerships trying to charge 10 grand over a sticker for it, which is pretty pathetic. I truly wish Toyota corporate would clamp down on their greedy dealers out there. If they are charging markups or caught wind of it, they should have limited their reallocation rate. And honestly, that's what drove me nuts. Seeing so many greedy dealers deploy those tactics and go unpunished by the vehicle manufacturer. They just let it happen. And I think if they want to continue to build brand reputation and that brand loyalty, they need to cut that. And they need to discipline the dealerships that are deploying those tactics. I firmly believe that. Can you imagine going into a dealership and saying, hey, I'm really excited about that new Tundra TRD Pro. I'd like to buy it. I'd like to order one. What do you mean there's a $10,000 markup on it? That's them totally taking advantage of your excitement. And we saw that left and right. And do you remember, even so many Toyota dealerships were quick to slap a $10,000 or more markup on the Toyota RAV4, the RAV4 Prime in particular. The hybrid examples of this, well, dealerships were licking their chops to try to take advantage of their customer, which is absolutely pathetic. Although I call myself a Toyota enthusiast, I wouldn't go as far to say Toyota purist by any means, but I have grown to appreciate Toyotas for the same reasons that a lot of you have, and that is because a lot of them generally came with that reliability factor, simplicity, and affordability. All 3 of those things have gone out the window, and well, this Toyota Land Cruiser is a prime example of it. That new 2024 Toyota Tacoma, another prime example of it, and well, just a little bit further, those Tundras, another example of it. Quality has gone down substantially and these price tags have gone to the moon. Let me remind you real quick of what they want for the lowest trim new 4-banger Land Cruiser. Just under 60 grand. This is the cheapest one, if you could believe it. And even with the new 6th generation Toyota 4Runner, there's not one here at this lot. So many dealerships are charging markups on those. I'll throw up an example here, an extreme example out of Dallas. But they are charging markups because they know it's the new cheese and they want to take advantage of your excitement on it. And well, I guarantee it, price tags on those new 6th generation 4Runners are going to match this new 2024 Tacoma in a heartbeat. These quickly came out. There's a lot of excitement about it, but then people quickly realize that they're not all what they're chalked up to be. And now these are easily seeing a $6,000 to $8,000 discount off the MSRP. Here's a hybrid version of it. Check this price tag. Crazy. A hybridized 4-banger underneath the hood, and they still want in the mid-50s. Insane. We have now just recently teetered over $1.6 trillion in national debt with auto loans. 1.6 trillion. That is a record today and certainly unprecedented of how fast we've gotten to that point. Things are only going to get worse as we teeter into 2025 here, especially as people begin cutting those loans and allowing their vehicles to get repossessed. The more that these new gens are discounted, the less your trade-in will likely be worth. The market is kind of a pendulum and it swings together between the new and used market here. We talked about it a little bit before, but when a vehicle is being produced in a cheaper labor country and we, the consumer, do not see those savings, well, that becomes a rub for a lot of Americans. This Toyota Tacoma is a prime example of just that. This is built entirely out of Mexico now. And well, the price tag still saw a 25 to 28% jump over the last generation, which is absurd. So guys, before you go out to a dealership, do a lot of research, do some homework, realize what a good figure will be or should be for your trade-in and how much you want to pay for that vehicle that you're trying to buy. Just know that that local dealership to you is not the only dealership with the vehicle that you're trying to buy. Look elsewhere. Look, several miles away. Maybe even look a state or two away. If it means saving more money, it's certainly worth taking a drive. I know I pick on Toyota plenty, but the fact that this Toyota Tundra SR5, a little bit of a bare bones example, still wants over $57,000 for it blows my mind, because you guys know, if you follow my channel, that 2021 Tundra TRD Pro in Lunar Rock as well, the highest trimmed example back in 2021 was $54,000. Oh, how times have changed. A lot of people are just fed up because so many vehicle manufacturers have just been offering and pumping out these higher spec, higher trimmed examples. When they do that, there's a larger profit margin to be had on said vehicle, but people don't want that. Heaven forbid we offer a simplistic, reliable, and affordable option, right? That's what the American public wants, and that's what they need right now more than ever. And honestly, it's becoming abundantly clear by how many of these lightly used sports cars, lightly used, high-trimmed vehicles that I find on dealership lots right now. People are just fed up with being suffocated by these monthly payments. They're fun cars, they're a thrill to drive every day, but is it worth losing your financial freedom? And for a lot of people, they're realizing the answer is no. So honestly, between the reckless buying practices of us, the consumer, throughout the last few years, combined with the irresponsible lending practices of so many banking institutions, like I said, going up to 150% loan to value for their loans, we now find ourselves in a sticky position. It's not just for us, but it's for dealerships too. They have this inventory that's racking up now, and so many people who are just currently buried underneath their current existing loans. They can't afford to come out here and buy a new vehicle. And to be fair, I think all of us fall victim to keeping up with the Joneses. We all want to have the nicest, coolest, and fanciest vehicle. We all kind of want that. But I tell you what, this vehicle right here, although it isn't the nicest, it's not the coolest, it's paid for. It's mine. And that to me is pretty dang cool. So I'll wrap up the video there, guys. As always, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to tune in these videos. If you find any kind of value in it whatsoever, I do respectfully request that you please consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a ton, and it certainly doesn't go unnoticed. Tell me what your thoughts are. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the current car market. Are we finding ourselves kind of in a broken predicament here due to all the inflated price tags that we've seen people fall victim to throughout the last few years? Let me know what your thoughts are. Until next time.